Ms. Stevens.
Here.
Mr. Blades.
Here.
Mr. Heyman.
Here.
Mr. Maurer.
Here.
We have 4 present. The mayor is absent at this time.
I'm going to approve the agenda.
Motion to approve. Second.
Please vote. We have 4 ayes, 1 absent with Ms. Breeden.
Okay. Seeing no public here, we're going to go into closed session on 2 items.
One more minute, everybody. Okay, it's 6:02. We're going to wait just a little bit. Jed is on his way. So if you'd like, any one of you could read a poem or sing a song or anything else. Okay, well, we will. Is that Jed? Is that who it is? Okay, all right, we're ready to begin now. Okay, I would appreciate it if you would stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I will lead. Place your hand over your heart and pledge your allegiance to the greatest country in the world. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And please remain standing.
Our Father in heaven, we're thankful for the opportunity we have meeting here today for this council meeting. We're thankful for this great city that we live in, and we're thankful for the friendships that we share one with another. We pray at this time thy Spirit will be with us to guide and direct us. We might make the decisions that thou would have us make, that we might be able to make our city even greater. We pray for these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Please be seated. Okay, the next item is the attorney's report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. City Council met in closed session on 2 litigation matters that are described in the agenda. Direction was given, report was given to the council, direction was given to staff, no final action was taken. In addition, we'll take the opportunity to describe that the city has settled its litigation with the tribe, and that is the Timbisha-Shoshone tribe. And this was described in a press release that went out on the day that the settlement was approved by the tribe. Some of the highlights of the settlement agreement are that the original agreement with the tribe was such that there was a phase 1 of the project, the casino, and a phase 2, which involved a hotel and other amenities. And the original deal was that the payments from the tribe to the city would increase upon building phase 2. So part of the settlement arrangement that was entered into by the parties is that with or without a phase 2, at the start of the third year, the payments increased $12.5 million to the city. Another highlight of the settlement agreement, first of all, of course, it ends the litigation, which was in arbitration. It ends that with the tribe, between the city and the tribe. The land sale proceeds at the original price of $5.5 million to the developer named Global. And the city will support, in good faith, will support the tribe with the Department of Interior with respect to the taking of the land into trust. I'll just say something about the authorization, the vote by the City Council. So the Brown Act does allow the council to discuss matters, litigation matters, and settlement in closed session. There is a strong public policy for settlement of all litigation between any party. So, and it's understood that that's difficult to do in the public eye. So the way that the Brown Act addresses settlement negotiations is that they are only reported out after both parties have approved it. So if the city is the final decision maker and all the terms have been nailed down and the other side has signed it, if the city were to be the last party to approve the agreement, then in that case the report out would be a final action was taken and the vote would be reported. When there's still negotiation back and forth and the city is simply proposing something to the other side, that is not a final action, and it is not reported out until it's finally approved by the other side and until someone asks for the agreement. So in this case, the city did announce it without waiting for anyone to ask, and like we said, it was announced in a press release. However, even though there's no requirement to announce the vote, the majority of the council did consent to reporting that out. So this settlement agreement that the tribe ultimately approved, the direction was given, was approved by 3 council members, Mayor Breeden, Vice Mayor Maurer, and Council Member Heyman. So it's 3-2. So that was the vote, and that's all I have at this time.
Okay, thank you, sir. All right, now we will come to presentations, and if you'll all join me at the podium.
I'm going to go first with the safe surrender. So if those here want to come up for this one. So proudly proclaim February as Safely Surrendered Baby Awareness, whereas the Safely Surrendered Baby Law was created in 2001 with the intent to save lives of newborn infants at risk of abandonment by encouraging parents or persons with lawful custody to safely surrender the infant within 72 hours of birth, with no questions asked. And whereas since the safely surrendered baby law's inception, there have been 76 babies safely surrendered in Kern County and placed in loving homes. And whereas in Ridgecrest and throughout Kern County, a newborn baby can safely be surrendered into the hands of any hospital emergency room or fire station staff. And whereas the Safely Surrendered Baby Coalition, under the coordination with the Department of Human Services, works to educate Kern County residents about this important law. The coalition is made up of a small group of dedicated individuals representing a long list of agencies, nonprofits, hospitals, and stakeholders, including First Five Kern, Bakersfield City Fire Department, and the Kern County Fire Department, Kern Medical, Dignity Health, Mercy, and Memorial Hospitals, Adventist Health and Clinic, Sierra Vista, to name a few. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the City Council of the City of Ridgecrest, does hereby proclaim the month of February as Safely Surrendered Baby Awareness Month, and encourages all Ridgecrest citizens to reach out and assist the Safely Surrendered Baby Coalition with their endeavors. And I'm proud to give this award because I fully support safely surrendering.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd just like to thank the City Council. This is a really important resource that we have out here. As she's mentioned, 76 is actually 77 babies that have been surrendered now so far in Kern County. So this is, I'm glad to get the information out here for the community so that they're aware of what can happen if someone is in a crisis mode and needs to safely surrender their baby. So thank you very much.
Mike and I had to fight over this one. We flipped, he won. Go ahead.
We didn't really fight. This is the proclamation for honoring Habitat for Humanity, so I'd like to invite all those. I know there's 4 or 5 of you there. You want to come up? Come on, Bill. Don't be bashful.
I'm just here to say thanks.
Bill, you helped us get it, please.
David? How you doing? A proclamation of the City of Ridgecrest, California, honoring Ridgecrest Habitat for Humanity, Indian Wells Valley. Whereas Habitat for Humanity is a nonprofit ecumenical housing ministry founded in 1976 that seeks to eliminate poverty, housing, and homelessness for the world and to make decent shelter a matter of conscience and action. And whereas Habitat for Humanity's work is accomplished at the community level by many nonprofit, independent, locally run organizations such as Habitat for Humanity in Wills Valley, and whereas through volunteer labor and donations of money and materials, Habitat builds and renovates simple, decent houses with the help of the homeowner, partner, families, and whereas since being chartered as a Habitat affiliate in 2000, Habitat for Humanity in Wills Valley has completed 21 homes with the help of over 300 donors and over 700 volunteers. And whereas upon the recent closing of Habitat for Humanity in Wills Valley, the City Council would like to extend gratitude and recognize them for 20 years of generous volunteerism. Now therefore be it proclaimed, the City Council of the City of Ridgecrest does hereby honor and recognize Habitat for Humanity in Wills Valley for its work in the valley, proclaimed this 5th day of February, signed by the mayor and all 4 council members.
I'd like to say a few words. I was asked to be on this committee to be the chair of the dissolution of the Habitat for Humanity of Indian Wells Valley. So we are closing shop after 20 years. As you heard in the proclamation, we had in the 20 years 21 homes, and currently we have about 14 or 15 homes. They all been transferred to Larry King's Habitat for Humanity of the Indian Wells Valley, where they'll be taken care of just like they were and better taken care of for our partner families than we're able to do now for lack of volunteers lack of financial support. This is a can-do organization. We made things happen. Bud Schul came back and said, we need to have a habitat in the valley. If you look at a map where Habitat for Humanity homes are, there's one little spot on the east side of the Sierras, and that one little spot is Ridgecrest. Ridgecrest is a can-do community, and we're very proud to have spent 20 years in providing suitable housing for those in need. So we thank you, and Bob Joy, Duke Martin, Terry Crawford. Oh, Bill is hiding back there, Bill Corley. We're all instrumental in helping Habitat build their homes. So again, thank you, and remember, this is a can-do community. Thanks.
I didn't want to be up here, but I wanted to say thanks for them. What a joy to see. We had the opportunity to serve with them, and also a couple of the homeowners are here, and they just wanted to be present. So if they would just kind of make their presence known by standing, or these again. The community has richly grown, and thank you. I want to thank you. You guys working with you out there, sweating with you. Has been a joy for myself and all the people that come out there from the community to do that. You've been literally an inspiration. So thank you for that inspiration, and thank you for your dedication over the years. You've inspired me. So thank you.
I'd just like to say one of the things about Habitat IWV is we have the most generous financial support of any habitat in the country. People in Ridgecrest, China Lake, the whole IWV have contributed financially unbelievably. Our average age out there right now is about 76 years old. That includes our permanent staff. Bob Joy is the site manager and has contributed, 5 of the last houses, where the site manager is just like a site manager of any construction job. It's a 24-hour job. He has to have everything planned. Our last house that we raised the walls, we raised all the walls, squared all the walls in 59 minutes. It's all on our website, and that's like a record, That's amazing because we had all the volunteers out there. But the permanent staff, the ones that are volunteering, they're getting too old to be up on the roof. I remember walking out there one day and looking up on the roof, and we have an 84-year-old man who's been on every one of our builds. He's up on top of the roof. And I go, okay, just take me to jail right now. This is old. But anyway, the aging of the workforce is what is closing us down. There's so many things that our young people, our middle-aged people are doing, and building houses can't be one of them. So the community has been a wonderful support financially. When we call for volunteers, they're always there, but the permanent workforce is aged out. So thank you, and you guys have a wonderful night.
David.
Just go on up. Sounds like a plan for me. Good evening. Good evening. Thank you, Council, for this opportunity to speak. My name is Eric Bruin. I'm the CEO for Desert Valleys Federal Credit Union, as many of you guys know. And as we all know, July 4th and 5th were very interesting days for Ridgecrest. And in the immediate hours following, I believe it was that Saturday evening, I dispatched an email to the California Credit Union League and to credit unions statewide and within my network of people to a call for funds. And we raised, over the course of the next 2 weeks, roughly $78,000, which we provided as earthquake relief grants to our community and to community groups over the past 6 months. We've reached the end of that program after dispersing roughly $52,000 to families and communities in the Ridgecrest and Trona communities, and an additional $20,000 to community organizations that supported or were severely impacted by the earthquake. I had the assistance of Jennifer Cotterill with Navy Federal Credit Union and Brian Bennett with Alta One. The three of us worked together, and this is a symbol of what credit unions are to their community as financial cooperatives, not banks. We are cooperatives owned by our members and serving our members, and we are very proud to have served our community. At the end of this, we now have the last few remaining funds, and therefore our group made the decision that the remaining funds would be donated in the amount of $5,000 to the Community Emergency Response Team, simply in the hopes that then, if there should be a situation again in the future, that they are fully funded or funded in a way that they can continue to support the needs of our community in the future. And if I could ask a couple members of CERT to come on up and accept the check. So once again, on behalf of credit unions statewide and nationwide, thank you for your efforts, and here's something to make sure that you continue those efforts for our community. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Well, we will put this to good use, and we will put it back into the community, and we will just do our best to make sure that we make our community more prepared. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. On behalf of Ridgecrest Regional Hospital, Liberty Ambulance, the management, staff, and leadership, we take this opportunity to say thank you to the City of Ridgecrest Police Department for working with us so closely and having our back day and night out there in the field. We asked what we could do for the officers, and with their assistance, we put together what are called active shooter kits. They're custom made based upon the needs of the police department, and the hospital has purchased 40 for the police department. The first 20 have arrived, and the other 20 are on the way. But they're custom made with equipment that the officers are able to treat themselves, other officers, community, and first responders, if necessary. And hopefully they'll gather dust in the trunk of the patrol car and never be used. But we just want to say thank you and show our appreciation for everything the police department and the City of Ridgecrest does for us.
Well, like Fred said, hopefully we never have to use these. So, but thank you, Fred, and to the hospital. Having the necessary equipment is always vital to us, and I'm with you. I hope they sit in the trunk and collect all the dust and never come out of there. So, but should we need them, hopefully we never have to pull them out. But. Thank you. Thanks. What do you want to do? You want to go over here? There's more room.
Oh, you want a big picture?
Sure.
Yeah, they're going to do a picture over here.
Oh, they do.
And she can get up on the step. Because her friend said she was going to put her on the shoulder.
Okay, we'll begin with public comment of items not on the agenda. Persons wishing to address the council on matters that are within the council's jurisdiction and do not already appear on the agenda may do so at this time. Pursuant to the Brown Act, the City Council may not take action on an item that does not appear on this agenda. Speakers are limited to 5 minutes. The public comment section of the agenda is limited to a total of 1 hour. Each speaker is asked to provide his or her name. Is there anyone, yes, who wishes to speak? Go ahead, sir.
Dave Janis with the China Lake Alliance, and I'm also representing the EDC tonight. And I hope I don't get in trouble with the Brown Act. Not that there's a risk of that. I came up here during this period last month to announce some really good news about the congressional votes and the president signing the defense budget and all the budgets for fiscal 2020 and what that meant for Ridgecrest with regards to repairing and reconstructing and completely bringing China Lake's mission back up to capability. And I have 3 new big updates that have occurred in the last 2.5 weeks up and through this morning. At the time I spoke, we had fiscal year 20, this year, monies that were going to be coming to the base and the folks that lead the reconstruction of that, which is Naval Facilities Command out of San Diego, and that was around roughly $1.7 billion. Congress had done something unprecedented at the time, and they had also passed an appropriation for an additional $1.2 billion for fiscal 21, but they hadn't authorized it. 2.5 weeks ago, Congress, working with legal teams, notified the Navy that, in fact, they are now reading the authorization such that the fiscal year 21 money is approved and ready to be spent. And in fact, at that time, they notified the Navy they wanted it moved forward and started in this year. So we're looking at $3 billion total worth of construction. 2.4 or so of that is major military construction on the base. An additional $627 million is repairs and other reconstruction-related items, small business, et cetera. That's the first thing that happened. The second thing is part of that was engage immediately with the community, because one of the things I talked about last week was what this was going to mean to the community and the shock it's going to be with the influx of builders and the problems we might have if we didn't lead turn it, get in front of it, and coordinate with them. They got that message. They have now scheduled, and they made the public announcement of it last night, February 25th, here at Kerr-McGee Center, the Navy from San Diego, Naval Facilities Command, working with Commander Naval Installations Command and Base leadership, the city and CLA and IWCED. The first part of that they're going to do that day from 8:30 to 4 o'clock, an industry day in China Lake for all of the local businesses in particular. And local isn't just town, although they are really interested in local, and I'll mention more of that in just a moment. And there will be an opportunity for our vendors to meet with the prime contractors that are going to come in. Their 3 priorities, the prime contractors have stated in the 2 previous industry days that were held in San Diego that they're first worried about workforce, and they want local workforce first and above all because they know the community. 2, they're cheaper because they don't have to pay to house them. Second was materials, and third is berthing. We're working with the city on how we're going to handle that influx, but they're coming down here to bring the prime guys that are already on contract so they can accelerate this as an emergency function. The morning session will be presenting the new schedule. Nobody has seen it yet. It's still in work. The new schedule, moving what was in fiscal year 20 faster and moving 21 starting into 20, is going to be presented that day to everybody, the primes and all of our subcontractors. The afternoon, they're going to have an opportunity, what I call speed dating. They're going to make matchmaking, try to fit the local contractors, subcontractors with these prime contractors. China Lake Alliance and the EDC will host a reception to follow on that dating evening, to continue the poor metaphor, and the relationship building. So there's huge opportunities for the community in there, and not just for construction and trades-related folks. This applies. The information out of this and what transpires, especially the schedule, will give hospitality industry folks, retailers, supermarkets. I mean, think of all the things that are going to be impacted by the tremendous numbers of folks we're going to have into work construction. There will be a panel during that day that will have City Manager Ron Strand will be on that panel. Navy folks will be on that panel. We'll be trying to start the dialogue to make sure the community can absorb this, and when the construction is over, leave the community better off than it was moving in. We've already started dialogue on that. We've had tremendous, let me finish this 1 minute less or less. We've had tremendous bipartisan support. Congressman McCarthy, Congressman Cook, Senator Feinstein, Senator Harris, those four are our representatives. Some of you might not know Congressman Cook. He is Inyo County, which is what the majority of the base is. They led the charge with the governor's support into the California delegation. In my 48-year Navy career, I have never seen MILCONs, military constructions, much less 1.2 billion of them, pulled forward. It's really unbelievable the level of support we've had. So good news for tonight. I want to thank everyone for their support. The city has been tremendous in this, the relationships the mayor established with the folks that I just talked about and helped lead that bipartisan charge. So thanks. We're going to be real busy. I'm sorry? 25th of February, but it's going to be mostly for the contractors and their subs, and we'll be putting out the information that comes out of that. The schedule will actually be published on their website.
Thank you, sir. All right, next, please.
Madam Mayor, council members, Ronald Porter. First off, again, we have a Brown Act violation here. The closed session wasn't properly notified. It's not just the legal that has to be notified. It has to be notified on what that actually is. If it's a suit over a pothole or a suit, that has to be in there so a person has a note. There's a violation of Brown Act. I've said this many, many times. Now I'm going to get into the real meat of the potatoes here. And that is, we have a city council here that doesn't care about the people. They don't care about a republic form of government. They don't bother to think that they have to follow the Brown Act. They can ignore it any time they want. They had a meeting. They settled a case, which there was no standing for the tribe to bring at all because the only person who could have made the standing was the other property owners. They had a vote in secret, which wasn't allowed. They sold property basically without bringing it to the public's attention. You just told the public, you don't count. Your opinion doesn't count. We're the dictators up here. Sit back and shut up. It's about time this council started acting like a council and representative of the people. You should have brought it out, says, here's what we decided. Here's what we're going to vote on, so the people could have a say. You didn't think the people counted. I don't understand what this attitude is about the Brown Act. Well, we'll follow it when we want. The Brown Act very clearly states that the vote has to be in public, that people have to have a say to know. The only time a vote doesn't have to be in public and personnel, things like that, it doesn't have to be. The rest of the time it does. You can't sell property, you can't, under negotiation, you still can't do this. This is what we decided, then it still has to come back to the public. It's about time we started acting like the public counts. And I'm tired of this secret stuff. First off, the settlement should have never been brought forth in that fashion. It's time that the people have a say in this community. It's a time that our representatives understand why that say is important. We just went through an impeachment because they don't want to follow the law. This city regularly destroys the Brown Act, and it says you shall comply. I don't understand why they don't care. You guys can go down and get on there. In fact, you're supposed to each have Brown Act training under California law. Did you not do the training? Or you just choose to ignore it? I mean, I don't know if the Brown Act, the thing that came out of closed council last time, it was mandated by California Brown Act to be made to the public the very next day. I didn't stay to see what came, because you went back in closed session. I don't know what came out of that one. But the people have a right to say on the value of the property. Because in theory, you could have sold the property to anybody or your buddies or anyone else for $2 under the settlement. That's not correct. And there was no case to be had because the other contract, the other contract had expired. I don't understand. I mean, I understand that there's something to do with the property, that the partial owners have a right to say something. We have an agenda tonight. It says conference with counsel. It says a case with San Bernardino. What's the case about? The Brown Act says you can use less than 21 words to say. Well, this case is about we don't like the color of their highway coming into Ridgecrest. I don't care what it is. The people have a right to know. The Brown Act very clearly states you have to provide enough information so that a citizen can look at it and say, do I want to look into this further? Can you find that in either one of those closed sessions? I can't. I want to know how you can. I've stood up here and said many, many times, the Brown Act is to make sure that we have a democratic form of government and a representation form of government. When you don't have to respond and tell us what you're doing, that doesn't work. I mean, most of the time when I come down here, I might as well come down here, go in the restroom, and talk to the urinal and go home. They look at my papers, they're immediately dismissed. I brought up a nice one from the California State Attorney General's office when they were doing the tax thing. The lawyer dismissed it before he even looked at it. Mr. Porter doesn't know what he's talking about, but anyone that knows me knows one thing. I'm very good at research. And when I bring something that's not my opinion, I bring in the state's opinion that you can use and utilize. People need to be heard. And it's time that you act and do your job. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Dave Matthews, address is on file still. First of all, I would like to make one statement, and that is, God bless Rush Limbaugh. If you don't know what I'm talking about, do your own research. Now, last Sunday was Groundhog Day. In the local area, I guess the groundhog, if we could find one, saw his shadow. Maybe it was actually a jackrabbit or something. I don't know. But anyway, that says that we're in for 6 more weeks of winter, whether we like it or not. Well, I'm a little tired of the cold weather we've been having in this global warming climate here. So, speaking of whether we like it or not, apparently we're having a casino whether we like it or not. And I'm a little disappointed in what I heard tonight, but there may be still some avenues here. We'll see. I have spent a day or so looking at the final version, so-called, of the MSA, and there's a couple of things that still bother me. I think the English, somebody needs to get an English teacher when they're writing these things, because the English is not correct in some places. But I'm going to ask 2 questions tonight, and I know I'm not going to get an answer. But I want it on the record, and I want answers eventually from whomever. I don't care. Possibly the city manager, possibly our lawyer. Number 1, the city of Ridgecrest. What sovereign rights do we have? The second question, during this MSA, did the tribe give up completely its sovereign rights? I don't figure, I can't make it out exactly. I don't think they did. And that's what I want to know. And I would like to mention one other thing. This is completely a different subject. The Habitat for Humanity, I am very sorry to hear is going to dissolve for the same reasons that many other organizations are dissolving, and that is the lack of younger people. Where are you, folks? This is going to be your world when we're all gone, and a lot of us are getting closer to their being gone. I'll tell you that right now. I know from experience. See you.
Thank you, sir.
Hello, my name is Amelia Cabana, and I'm here to address a few things. And I have a few comments. In light of all the work that's going to be coming in with the earthquake infrastructure and hiring of people, and we're getting more people in town, right? And we're also apparently building a casino at the same town. We don't have the infrastructure to support either one of those. And once the construction is done on the base, all of those people are going to be gone for the most part. Think about it. When you build a sports stadium or Olympics, everyone comes and then they leave. They don't stay. You have to give them incentives and reasons to stay. And a casino does not give people the same reasons to stay that maybe you're thinking. Because you know what I'm thinking as a young person that works on base? And a lot of people are too, that are actually told me they were afraid to come here tonight because they're outsiders and they don't feel welcome in this town. And they hear you guys are having secret meetings. They're like, what is this, a mafia? Why are we not invited to this? Why is this not told to us? It's like we have no idea what's going on, and then when we do, we are told it's secret. So they're like afraid. But what we're thinking is we moved here because it's a small town, and we want to raise our kids here. We want to live in peace here and quiet. And if we wanted to work for the military and on bases near a casino, we would move to Nevada, because guess what? They have much better taxes and a lot of laws that we would prefer. So I don't know what you guys are thinking, and I don't see a lot of younger people here, but frankly, we don't feel welcome. We don't feel, nobody reaches out to us in the way that you guys are maybe imagining you do. Because I don't see it, and we don't feel welcome. We really don't. But a casino is not the answer to getting highly educated people or highly skilled people to stay here, especially on the base. Statistics show that it is for low-income, poor people, and we don't even have the infrastructure to support that, the rebuilding of the base, and all of the negative social consequences that it's going to bring. So I want to know, is there an official impact analysis that was done? Who did it? Was it released to the public? Was it from an outside source? Where is it? Why was none of this given? Why is this being talked about in hush-hush secrets, and then we're told that we have a voice and that young people should be more interactive with the community? Why? That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Evening, Council. Scott Miller. My address is on file. I have a lot to say, and I'm not sure I can even get through it all. First and foremost, can't do it. First, Council, thank you for filling the contract with the tribe. To that end, I would like to ask Council to look into restarting the city and tribe meetings, co-meetings we're supposed to be having. That there's been one meeting. However, with a modified version of what we have today, in my opinion, the chairperson of that committee should not be the same person who's the admin of the No Casino page on Facebook. Again, that's my opinion, and that, in my opinion, doesn't serve the best interest of our community. Following up with the young lady just said a moment ago, at one point our council was having meet the council person meetings. I brought it up, I think it was about a year ago, and Mike Maurer was there for one of them, and a former council person was there for one. It was a great opportunity to speak, not on the dais, and kind of get the word out. I would encourage council to restart that. A year ago, I was told, yeah, we'll look into that. We have, she said it very, very nicely, that a lot of the young people don't know how to engage. And that may be a good way to do it, not here in front of the eyes of the world, but doing it mano a mano at a local restaurant. And sit there and have a cup of coffee, or heck, there's a new brew pub in town. Go in there and have a root beer and a beer or whatever, and have that one-on-one with council. And it's going back a little bit. Everybody seems to, not everybody, let me rephrase that. It's this big misconception, in my opinion, that it's just a casino. It's not. It's an entertainment complex. There's going to be an entertainment venue there where big music bands, it doesn't sound right, concerts can take place, and people will come to Ridgecrest for that. This weekend, or 2 weeks, we have a dinosaur exhibit coming to the fairgrounds, and there could be things like that that will be happening at this entertainment complex. So it's not just a casino, it's an entertainment complex. We have a lot of people coming in to do work on the base. Well, I was talking to someone today, and someone said like 40% of our population leaves town on the weekends to go outside of town. Where are they going? I could guess, but I'm not going to. Well, if there's something to do here, they probably will. We have a great fairgrounds. We'll have a great entertainment complex. We can all work together and make that happen. Can't do the other one without getting upset. So with that, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening. My name is Mike Neal. Didn't expect to be able to do this, but I'd like to thank one of our former speakers, Ms. Cabano, for what she had to say, and assure her that there's really nothing up here that anybody needs to be afraid of, Ms. Cabano. We got a lot of scheming behind closed doors going on. Well, that's nothing really to be afraid of. Educate yourself, know your facts, know the law. You'll notice that tonight the city attorney had to report out something I guarantee you was not going to reveal without a back and forth between him and another citizen in this town over what the law was. And they actually complied. They've rarely done that, but they get pressed regularly about it. Now, just to speak about the general public's reaction to the latest decision about the casino. I thought a long time about what to say on this, and there's probably 45 minutes worth of slam that I could talk about on this whole decision. I'd just like to say right up front and plainly, this settlement, quote unquote, to sell the land is completely like, what is this to everybody in town? This council voted in 2018 to terminate the land sale agreement, and now, for somewhere out in the air, they pull a sales agreement down and approve it under the cover of their attorney, which is never ever been anything more than a cover for this council's actions, claiming, oh, we made a settlement and we agreed to sell the land. Well, guess what? You can't sell our public land without a public discussion and a public vote. Three of you are responsible for that. I'm looking you in the eye right now and telling you, you hold responsibility for an illegal action to sell public's land. I can't understand. I can't on the part of two of you because you've been bought into this for over 3 years. So, Ms. Breeden, Scott, I'm against the casino, Heyman, Mike Maurer, this town's going to hold you responsible for this, and you're going to catch flack over it for a long time. And I hope the proper response gets taken up in this town to recall two of you from your positions for this illegal action, because I'm telling you, this is what people's
feelings are about this. I'll show you what it is. Right in the back, a stab right in our back, a betrayal of our trust, a betrayal of your supposed representation of the people in this town, who's been shown clearly for 3 years that the majority of the people in this town don't want this thing. I'm sorry to get a little more than calm here, but this, I'm telling you, what I hear, and I hear a lot from people, they are just like, what is wrong with this council? And they are not happy. I'm trying to avoid words I shouldn't be saying in public. So take what you get and don't complain about it, because you bought it for yourselves. And if anybody in the public wants to mount a recall campaign, I've been involved in one before. I'll be glad to help point out to you how to go about it. It's not real hard, unless, of course, you don't prepare yourself for the resistance that you're going to get from city staff, city manager, everybody in this city organization who's going to try to put roadblocks in your way. You just have to be persistent. We did it once. We got it passed through them and onto the proper stage. It just needs enough signatures, and they'll have to either be calling a special election or come up in November. 2 of these people that just voted for this have still got 2 years left on their term, and they need to be booted out, and we'll do it for Miss Breeden in November.
Thank you, sir. Is there any other public comment? Okay, we will go on to the next item. The consent calendar. Oh, council announcements. Anybody has anything they'd like to say? Okay. I would like to follow up with a letter. I received a personal letter from Senator Feinstein asking to share the good news about what's happening at Channel Lake. And she said, I know how important Channel Lake is to Ridgecrest's economy, and I've enjoyed our conversation since the earthquake in July. Kevin McCarthy and I were able to secure the full amount assessed by the Navy for repairs this year, and I hope we will be able to get the vase back in shape as soon as possible. You all are doing a wonderful job, and I look forward to continue to work with you to ensure Channel Lake and the city of Ridgecrest are fully rebuilt. She said, handwriting, that she's very pleased to work with us and that she hopes that we are as pleased to work with her too. And I want to publicly thank her for all her help and her support, because without she and Kevin McCarthy and Senator Harris and Congressman Cook, we could not have done it. And with the help of Channel Lake, EDC, and the Channel Lake Alliance, it would not have happened. So thank you all and for your help and continued support. Okay, the next item. No other council announcements, correct? Okay. Consent calendar. All items on the consent calendar are considered to be routine by city staff and will be approved in one motion if no member of the council or the public wishes to comment or ask questions. If comment or discussion is desired by anyone, that item will be removed from the consent calendar and will be considered separately with public comment before action is taken. I'm going to read 5 and 6. Proposed action to approve draft minutes of the City of Ridgecrest City Council Successor Redevelopment Agency Financing Authority, Housing Authority regular meeting dated January 15th. And the next item, I'm sorry, resolution of the City Council of the City of Ridgecrest authorizing the application for federal funding for fiscal year 2020 in the amount of $98,062. Authorize the city manager to sign and file the application, execute and file all certifications of assurances, contracts or agreements, and authorize the Transit Service Director to provide additional information in connection with the application for Section 5311 projects, and is authorized to submit an approved request for reimbursement of funds from the Department of that Section 5311 projects. Any council member want to have any item pulled? Is the public wish to have any item pulled? Okay, a motion then?
I move approval.
Second.
Please vote. 5 ayes, motion carries.
Okay. The next item, Mayor Breeden, with concurrence of the council, will appoint members to the meeting city council committees, boards, and commissions. As far as I know, the only one that we have before us is one for the planning commission, and I've known this man for a very long time. So Lindsay, you made this as your nomination?
Yes, my nomination for Planning Commission is Travis Reed. He's here today. He is a civil engineer for the Water District, and I think he would be a good addition because he has professional knowledge that I think would be a very valuable asset for the commission.
Travis, did you want to come up and speak at all? Answer any questions, say anything? I'd like to say one thing. I've known this man forever. He has been consistent, honorable, hardworking, and been a strong asset to this community. And I appreciate his willingness to volunteer and Lindsay's wisdom in appointing him.
I didn't have anything prepared to say, but I know that in working in other places, sometimes there's better ways to do things, and there's a difference in opinions and just about everything we do. But I think that my experience in San Bernardino County, in LA County, in Ventura County, and all that stuff, I think bringing that to our city would be a great asset. I started as a young boy. My dad beat it into me that you get out of anything what you put into it. So I started with a shovel in my hand at 6 and got to do that till I was about 14, and then started doing construction after that, and which moved into big dirt, which moved into surveying, and now it's into engineering and surveying. So I look forward to being a part of the commission.
Questions from council?
I don't have any questions, but I do like the fact that you've worked from the bottom up. I think that really helps in understanding the different aspects of a project and who's going through what and their needs, and so I really like that attribute that you're bringing. So thanks.
Thank you.
Is there any questions from the public? Okay, then a motion.
I've passed the test. I have to send in my application to actually get my stamp, but I have passed the test. So.
Okay, motion.
Yeah, motion to appoint.
Second.
We're going to do a roll call vote on this one. Mayor Breeden?
Yes.
Ms. Stevens? Yes. Mr. Blades?
Yes.
Mr. Hinman?
Yes.
Mr. Maurer? Yes. 5 ayes, motion carries.
Okay, thank you and welcome.
Congratulations.
Okay, the next item. Conduct a protest hearing in the proposed sale of the southerly portion of APN 067040-12, followed by a discussion and vote of a resolution approving the purchase and sale agreement with Pacific West Communities Incorporated regarding, and it is a change in the number is 5.39, and that if anybody wants that information, it's up here, acres, parcel of land. And Heather?
Want me to start, Heather? Shall I start?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. So I'll just say a little bit about the procedure for sale of surplus land. This is a procedure that's laid out in the government code, and it requires 2 public hearings. So the whole idea with the city, any city selling surplus land is that there's first notice given to the public of the intention to do so. And that allows time for not just the initial meeting, but also this intention of the city to sell the property is posted on the property and posted at City Hall as well. And that gives others the opportunity to show up at this meeting, which is called a protest hearing or protest meeting. So This allows, I guess in a typical situation, it might be someone else who wants to buy the property and offer a higher price. So that's why this is done in two separate meetings. The first is the adoption of the notice of intention to sell, which is what the City Council passed at the last meeting. And the second is the protest hearing, which will come right now, followed by discussion and vote by the Council. Heather will talk about the project that is proposed, because this land sale is part of an affordable housing project that was heard by the Planning Commission. And I'll just say that the bit about the acreage is that in the time from the last hearing to this hearing, the engineer did a legal description, and the reason the number changes is because the project description was not considering the right-of-way that will be dedicated to the city upon the building of the project. So it's, in other words, the developer was describing about 4.6 acres, which is the actual area of the construction project, but we've expanded that acreage to about 5.4 acres to include the road right-of-way that, upon approval of the project, the developer will dedicate back to the city. So that's the difference, and that's seen on, could we see the next slide? It's very difficult to tell, but on the westerly and southerly boundary of that rectangle, there's a faint line showing the road that will be carved out. I don't know how clear that is for the public to see. So that's the procedure, and Heather will talk about the project.
Good evening. So, as Lloyd mentioned, this is the second meeting. On January 15th, the council adopted a resolution of intent to sell the portion of the property to Pacific West Communities. Notices were published in the newspaper and on the property to notify the public of tonight's hearing. Tonight you'll be asked to hear any protest to the land sale, and with a final action to approve the purchase and sale agreement. The entire project is the land sale, the site plan entitlements, and the joint grant application for an affordable housing development. The property for consideration consists of 5.39 acre portion of vacant land, which is a portion of 31.79 acre site located at 600 North Norma Street. The city has not used the property and determined it to be surplus to the city's needs. Government Code Section 54220 states that surplus property should be made available as a priority for affordable housing developments. Planning Commission approved a site plan and a density bonus for the proposed development on January the 8th. An appraisal was conducted and found the value of the property to be $160,000. Pacific West Communities has offered to purchase the property for the appraised value. Pacific West Communities plans to construct a 76-unit multifamily affordable housing development on the property. All units, except for the manager's unit, will be for low-income families, and the development will be restricted to affordable housing for 55 years. Over 1,500 Ridgecrest households receive SNAP benefits. Over 1,500 families have an annual income under $35,000, and 40% of female head of household incomes are below poverty level. The qualifying income levels for affordable housing are based on the Kern County median income. These depend on household size and income level. Annual incomes could range from $13,000 to $48,000. Typical workers that could qualify for these incomes include those working in our service industry, clerks, or receptionists. Staff asked Pacific West Communities to conduct a market study to determine what the local market would be for affordable housing. Their study found that in Ridgecrest and Trona, there were 750 eligible households and a need for 231 additional affordable housing units. The California Department of Housing and Community Development requires that local governments meet housing needs for everyone in the community. These needs are planned for in our general plan and more specifically in our housing element. The city's housing element addresses our regional housing needs allocation as an unaccommodated 321 units, which our goal would be to move towards this number by the year 2023. The proposed developer is Pacific West Communities. They have previously developed in the community, including the senior apartments and the Larkspur apartments on Downs. The proposed development is located on 5.39 acres in close proximity to other multifamily housing developments, making use of currently vacant land. Additionally, the proposed public improvements through the co-application grant funds will provide a linkage between housing, services, and jobs through accessibility to transit, walking, and biking. On January 15th, the City Council approved a resolution authorizing the joint grant application for the Affordable Housing Sustainable Communities Grant with Pacific West Communities. The developer is applying for grant funds to build the affordable housing development, and the city is applying for funds for public improvement projects. The area of the proposed grant-funded public improvements includes Las Flores, Norma, Drummond, and Felspar. These improvements include bikeways on Felspar, Drummond, and Norma, pedestrian improvements, including ADA improvements to the sidewalks on Norma, Drummond, and Las Flores. Landscaping improvements include the drainage sump on Norma and replacement of grass landscaping at the transit transfer point in front of City Hall. Additionally, transit-related amenities include electric vans, bus shelters, and additional regional linking services to Bakersfield through current transit. The developer plans to construct the housing contingent upon the awarding of the Affordable Housing Sustainability Grant funds. If the grant is not awarded, the land sale and the housing development will be canceled. Staff recommends that the City Council adopt a resolution approving the purchase and sale agreement. That concludes my presentation.
Questions or comments from council?
So, unfortunately, Amelia, this is another project that goes against probably what most of the people on base are looking for. But George will be happy because this is more clientele for the casino. So we are moving in the opposite direction that we should be with a project like this, unfortunately.
So I'd like to speak up on this a little bit because I think this is a great project for this town. I just spoke with a young engineer. She met the criteria that was just presented here. Spoke to her this week, and she's a young engineer on base, single, female, and with loans and all the expenditures that she has, her qualifications isn't for a $250,000 house or a $300,000 house. It fits the budget that we're seeing here, and that is a young engineer that works on base. And so there is a need for it, not just with the engineers, but for the community as a whole. There's young people that are working in two different incomes, that, you know, jobs that don't want to be living at home with their mom and dad, and they don't have the availability to go out and rent, you know, the mid-level or higher income homes or apartments. And so there's a need for these young families to be able to get out on their own, be able to find a nice apartment to live in. They have a right to that affordable housing too. So there's no doubt in my mind that this community needs affordable housing. And so I think it's a great project.
I think the research that's been done also proves that we still have a a requirement to meet certain housing needs, and we are not meeting them all at this time. I've said before, there's several dwellings around town that are in very poor shape, but people have to rent those because that's all they can afford. And I think, I know it was mentioned before that, well, they'll probably get more dilapidated than they are. Well, maybe the homeowners, the property owners will fix them up, but I'm all in favor of this project.
Well, did you have anything you wanted to say?
I have no further comment.
Madam Mayor, do you want to open it up to the?
I am. I'm going to see if there was any other any other council comments, and we'll open up the hearing. I think when you look at the people who are proposing to develop this project, they have two quality projects right across from each other on Downs, and I appreciate the fact that they have already invested in this community twice and keep up quality homes. I've been in some of them, and I think they look as nice inside, even better some than out. So I'm very proud of this company who wants to invest in this community and continue to help this community grow. I've heard it said at the Planning Commission that we don't want these kind of people here, but quite frankly, I have to say that these kind of people are already here. We need people who are willing to invest in themselves, work to grow this community, and have a decent place to live. And we have a company who has shown a strong propensity for keeping their projects up and taking care of them. So I would like to ask then that we open the public hearing part of this and ask people to make their comments, and council will answer and as they can, and staff, and we will then close the public hearing. So those who wish to come up and speak, please do so.
Honorable Mayor, members of the council, my name is Stephen Morgan, 729 North Eno Street, former council member. First thing you have to know is there's a housing element that is put forward to the public, and it's reviewed every 10 years. And part of that housing element is this type of unit. And those units are good for so long. You heard that this one will be good for 55 years. So that means there is a rotation on these. So as they age out, the city council must replace to meet their requirement by the state. This does exactly that, and I cannot believe, I just heard a council member say, I don't want these people in my town. So these people are E3s, E4s in the military. That's who these people are. They are the possibility of a few college students who have part-time jobs to collaborate, combine their incomes, and have a place to live, and you don't want them here? Are you kidding me? Disgusting. It's a great project. It does need to be approved. It's very appropriate. It's zoned correctly. Everything about it's right. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment?
I'll just say that I didn't say I did not want these people here. I said I don't like the project.
Yes, Mike Neal. One little fact probably people aren't aware of. The apartment complex on Downs that was touted previously here a few minutes ago, that was looked at by someone else that I know and is very well studied and knows how to get his information some years after, maybe a year or so after it was built, supposedly low-income housing, right? It turned out that it was acquired, I don't know, there was maybe 30 apartments over there, something like that, maybe more. 5 of them were priced to be in the quote-unquote affordable housing range. I don't know how they get away with this kind of stuff when they get all these grants and low-income loans for people, and if there's anybody from that company here can answer this kind of thing, but that's basically a fraud. Now, I don't know what kind of contractual agreement does this company have with the city or the state to guarantee that these units are going to be below the quote-unquote fair market rate. Do they or do they not? Somebody answer that question.
The grant funding is through the Affordable Housing Sustainable Communities. It will be recorded and they will be required for their funding and to not be recalled on their loan, that they maintain that. I think it's the Kern County median income, so they will have to be required to have levels of units. So some of them could be 30% of the median income and up to 60%. So it's going to depend, and they have to have so many units at each varying income level.
Okay, and who polices that to check what they're charging people for rents to guarantee that they don't jack the rents up, after they've been given this elite status of being given this funding and grants and things? Did anybody check it? Check on them? Police them? Make sure they're not raising their rents?
If I may, I don't know who enforces it, but I do know that in addition to what Heather mentioned, this promise gets recorded as a covenant that runs with the land. So even if the development is sold or whatever, that restriction is always on title. But I don't know the answer to your question about who polices it.
I tell you what the answer probably is. The answer probably is nobody, and they just get away with it. But they get our tax money in the form of a nice fat grant or super low income loan and so forth. Now, the other thing I'd just like to point out or ask actually, it was actually shown here, and I'm going to say I'm disappointed that it was not included in the published agenda, and that's the fact of the grant money that the city is getting in order to entice them to put this forward. Basically, I went and pulled that up from the last meeting, and I found out, and I'm a little confused because, again, it's not spelled out very well, not really there sufficient for the public to actually understand without trying to dig, make phone calls, and go to all kinds of effort. It says there's $6 million for sustainable transportation infrastructure and $1.2 million for transit-related amenities. Now, does what you show earlier, the transit-related amenities that are going to be funded with the $1.2 million?
Correct. The entire grant is based upon the amount for the housing development. So the developer proposes that the housing development will be $12 million. So the Affordable Housing Sustainable Communities, the grant, requires a proportional amount for public improvements. So the entire public improvements would be about $7 million.
Okay, so what I think I missed somewhere along the way was what are the other $6 million of what we're going to spend this grant money on? I mean, we're talking about a grant that's almost half and half for the city. Not quite, maybe 2/3, 1/3. The developer's going to get 12, and the city's going to get 7. We've heard about what 1.2 is. What are the 6 for?
It's actually broken up in 2 different portions. The first portion is the sidewalks, so the ADA improvements to all of those sidewalks and driveways on Norma and Drummond and Los Flores, and then the bikeways. That's all included in the $6 million. And then the $1 million is the vans and additional transit-related amenities.
Well, that's a lot of money for bikeways and sidewalks, let me tell you. $6 million. Yeah, I just got recently educated, even after all these years of dealing with the city, about how these grant fundings go. And let me tell you in the public for sure, this grant money is shelled out. I'll give you an example. $100,000 plus to put 2 stop signs on Down Street. Could have been done for $10,000. We actually spent, I was told, close to $100,000 of city staff time just getting this $100,000 worth of grant money. So it actually cost us $200,000. Thank you. I guarantee you this $6 million that our taxes are funding to pay for bikeways, which, wow, do we need more bikeways? I didn't know that. Maybe sidewalk improvements, so forth and so on. This work could have been done for way less than half of that. But our city, unfortunately, has always been in love with grants. They think somehow that it's invisible money that floated down from heaven, and anything that is put forward and it's like, here's some grant money for you to entice you.
I believe your time is up, Mr. Neal.
I don't have time. This is public comment. This is discussion. Thank you very much. I'm almost done anyway. They'll go for it, and they'll waste a bunch of our tax money. And guess what? Like someone else said, I don't know that citizens have actually been asked or even polled or any effort really made as to whether we want this kind of housing development here in town. I never heard it. We're here tonight. Some of us get to speak, but in a sanctuary state, with subsidized housing being put into a town, there's not any guarantees. The people who have come into this country and are not even citizens are not going to end up living in that complex, but that's where they're going to gravitate to if they come here. And guess what? There are people in this town that probably don't want that. But like I said, there's all this grant money offered to the city, so they want it, and they're going to do it.
Is there any other comment, please? Please come up. You're more than welcome.
I would just like to say that I don't.
Could you identify yourself for the record again,
Amelia
please?
Cabana, and I would just like to say that I don't think this is a matter, and obviously this is my opinion, of those people versus these people versus how we feel about different classes or races or any of that. I heard, was it Mr. Heyman? You said that you spoke to one engineer on base, and that was a good idea in their opinion. I don't see that as...
No, I didn't say those words. I said I spoke to an engineer on base who fits the criterion of this. That's what I said, so don't...
Okay, I'm just trying to understand where you were coming from with that.
It was pretty basic. A person who's an engineer qualifies, as a single female, qualifies for this housing. That's what was said. Pretty simple statement.
Yes, sir. I have been in situations where I required affordable housing. I'm not saying it's something that's not needed. I'm not saying that it's something that I'm against. I like that Ms. Braden mentioned that this company has a good track record with our city. That's a good thing. I'm kind of neutral, undecided on this. I don't think that making decisions based on speaking to only a couple of people here and there is the best way to make decisions. And that is really what I just stood up to say, is not I'm for it, not I'm against it, but I take issue with, I talk to 1 or 2, 3, 4 or 5 people, and that's how I made my decision, because we tend to surround ourselves with people that are like us and like-minded. I've been at Port E3 that needed somewhere to stay. I stayed at the barracks. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Thank you.
My name is Mark Carl. I work on base. I manage a team of our fine young engineers. Previously, I was in the U.S. Navy, where I had the honor and privilege of managing some of our fine young men and women on a combat deployment. I would like to say I am strongly opposed to this project. I think it will degrade our community. I think it will be problematic for base, where our biggest problem is not infrastructure. Our biggest problem is talent. Our biggest problem is finding bright young engineers that will come to Ridgecrest and work for us. In order to do that, Ridgecrest needs to be a place where people want to live. Building this project is not going to do that. It's going to work against that. It's going to degrade our neighborhood. It will make our neighborhood unsafe. It will lower our property values and will be of no benefit to anyone that works on base. As far as Mr. Heyman's statement that an engineer needs affordable housing, the engineers on base start at $70,000. That's the minimum. That far exceeds the criteria for this housing project. So to say something like that, I don't know if it's just mathematical illiteracy or confusion, but that is a ludicrous thing to say. Additionally, as far as the junior enlisted, the E2s and the E3s, they are provided housing by the Navy. So that is not necessary either. Ridgecrest currently has 9 other, taxpayer-funded affordable housing projects. We do not need another. Additionally, Ridgecrest has some of the lowest rents in the entire state of California. So we do not need more low-end affordable housing. What Ridgecrest needs is to develop as a community that will attract talented, highly skilled, highly educated engineers that this base, this town, this country desperately needs. This project works completely against that. So, what we need is not to be building another low-income housing project. What we need to do is to renovate all the abandoned and distressed properties in town. If you want affordable housing, why don't we fix up the abandoned and distressed properties that we have now, rather than giving all of our taxpayer money to some developer to build a bunch of housing that in another 10 years will be decrepit and abandoned and have the shingles falling off the roof and have a bunch of trash laying everywhere, just like some of these other projects we have in town right now. So I'm strongly opposed to this. This does not help us on base. Again, our biggest problem is finding engineers that want to move here. They want a good community to live in. And we're saying that we don't have enough money or we don't have the resources to rebuild the Penny Pool or build a park or anything, yet somehow we have money to build a pool for the low-income housing project, which will not be available to the members of the public. That is just an insult for all the hardworking people in Ridgecrest who pay their own rent, who work for a living, that they don't get to have a nice park or a pool, but rather our taxpayer money gets devoted to building a project where it will not benefit them at all. So I think this is just a disaster for the community. I don't think the city council is working in the taxpayers and the citizens' interest by trying to push this project through. Additionally, I think they have also been very lax in informing the public about it. We only found about this very recently and very haphazardly. It's not being well advertised. The public is not being informed. They are not consulting their constituency on this decision. No one on base wants this project. This will not help. All the engineers I've hired, and I've hired a lot of engineers, they do not need affordable housing. They might need an apartment or other, beginner housing out in town, but we have plenty of that. We do not need, and all the engineers on base, and not just the engineers, but pretty much anyone that works on base in an exempt position would not meet the income requirements for this project. So this is not of benefit to the base. This is not of benefit to our city. This will degrade our neighborhood. And another thing, it's not a value proposition. How much more crime, how many more problems, how much more money and resources are we going to have to spend on police and first response and infrastructure to support this project? It is not despite all the grant money, it is not a value proposition for this community. I am strongly opposed to this, and I will continue to fight this as long as we have to, because this is not what this community needs. This is not what the base needs, and this is not what our country needs. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, my name is Stephanie Bissell. I live at 301 Mamie, which is right adjacent to the proposed settlement, and I am strongly opposed because I am worried about the safety of my community. I am worried about the safety of the children that will be in this complex due
Wait a
to
minute.
the...
Wait a minute,
please.
Can you quiet down back there? You're interfering with the person now speaking.
I'm worried about the safety of the children that will be in this complex because there is the sump there. It is a prime location where children can get drowned, and then it will be a lawsuit for the city. Why don't we build senior housing if we need to increase our low-income housing, to have more Section 8 housing? The thing that hasn't been said, and a lot of these people that live in this are unemployed. It's not going to benefit the people that actually work in town. They mentioned the Larkspur housing, but have you driven by it lately? Is it an asset to Down Street? Absolutely not. The shingles are falling off. The property has bad reviews. Most people that have well-paying jobs would not want to live there. Why are you degrading the area north of this proposed project? We have nice homes there, so we want nice housing by us. We don't want more Section 8 housing bringing down the community, increasing the crime, and also putting risk to the children that live there as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
John Kersey, Community Planning Liaison Officer for Naval Air Station, Weapons Station, China Lake. I just want to make it clear, those individuals that do work for the installation, they are not the voice of the installation. We are neutral on this, and we will remain so. I know they are very adamant, and those are their personal opinions, so I just want to make sure.
Thank you, sir. Any other public comment? Okay, any other council comment?
Well, I must have driven by this different Lockster project that she did, because even before this went to Planning Commission, my Planning Commissioner asked me to go out and drive around with him. We went and drove through both of the Downs projects, the senior one and the lower, and this is not Section 8, by the way, I don't think. It's different. No, it's not called Section 8. It's a different project than Section 8. Anyway, we drove through both of them. We actually stopped and talked to the manager of the low-income housing, and I think they're both well maintained. They're clean. They look well, and there's only 2 vacancies. That's a 82 or 84 unit complex, I think it is. They only have 2 vacancies right now, which for most people that'd be considered pretty much full. I think it's an addition to the community. By the way, a lot of that money that Mr. Neal was asking about is going to go to upgrade the sump, make it nicer, make it a little more presentable, hopefully trim the trees, and put some concrete in there and make it more secure.
So I would just like to add additional comment to the what this project is and what it does, and how this kind of segued over into housing for a different niche of the community. I don't think you'll find anybody on this council or in town that you speak to that would argue the point that if we need if there's a need for affordable housing for the engineers, that we are 110% behind filling that niche. There's no doubt about it. But this is a niche that is separate of that, and so there is absolutely no reason why, as a city, we can't manage those areas that we need to be managing. This is one of them. Affordable housing, or as one speaker got up and said, they don't need affordable housing, but I would disagree that point. Affordable is all in the eyes of the beholder and what your income is at that moment, and so there's no doubt we need multiple areas addressed, and so don't confuse this with affordable housing for engineers on base. It's 2 separate, completely different entities. So anyway, I just want to point that out. So we do want affordable housing in all areas of the community.
Okay, Lindsay?
So just to clarify, because apparently there's some confusion, Section 8 is not actually a type of housing. Section 8 is a housing voucher program. And so a unit like this can accept Section 8 housing vouchers. And as Mr. Neal stated, a unit such as this also in California can accept illegal immigrants in there because of state laws that have been passed. So just to clarify that, Section 8 people can live in a unit like this. And affordable housing, low income housing. They're just swapping out the name there.
I'm going to make another comment. Excuse me. I've been told for years how Bakersfield and Los Angeles are shipping all their poor people up here because it's cheaper to live here. Our population count has not gone up that much to where they've shipped that many people over here. So I employ people that could qualify for this housing, and the state of California has determined that we need to provide it. And I may not agree with all the things the state of California says, but probably most of them I don't agree with. But I think that I have a problem with these people and those people and our people, and all of my employees are good people, and they can all qualify to live here.
Well, it sounds like you guys have said about everything there is to say. I'm in favor of this project, and I'll tell you why. I do work on base. I have a house, but I know countless people who have had to be in the situation where they've needed affordable housing. And I think that the ongoing conversation we're having about just talking about people who work on base is negligent. We're leaving out a huge portion of the population, and I think we know we need to take other people into account. It's irresponsible just to sit and talk about people who work on base, the people I work with. We know. We all know the situation. We know they make enough money. We get it. But there's a whole lot of people I'm related to, friends I've had, they've had to go into affordable housing, or they've had to share houses. And then when you talk about the housing situation for people who work on base, a lot of these ESTPs come in, they have to share houses. There's not enough housing to go around. So I think this is just, like you said, Councilman Heyman, it's just one more niche we need to fill.
I would like to close the council comment with this, that just because we offer the opportunity for people, and I don't know how affordable housing got to be bad, but frankly, if you can afford $120,000 for a home, or you can afford $120 million, your affordable is in the eyes of the beholder. And so, quite frankly, I think it's important that we recognize that this is just one portion of our needs we're trying to help fill. We have higher income housing much needed. We have talked and talked and talked about it, and we're going to see more of it as time comes on, and the economics of it will be filled by the people who are willing to invest in this community and say, you know what, I see the ability to grow in this community if I can sell a home for $250,000 or for $300,000. And if you don't want to invest in affordable housing, don't do it. But don't deny others the ability to do so. And so we have closed all the public comments. We have closed council comments. Is there any other comments by anybody? Okay, we've already closed public comment on that. And pardon me? We had no one else to speak, so we closed the Does anybody have a problem allowing this woman to speak, please?
I think it'd be great.
Let's do it, but please make it minimal. No, you must come up here so we have it on the record so everybody can hear it. That way we forget the people that are watching online, and if they can't hear it through the microphone, they can't.
I just have a quick question. Isn't it the taxpayers that will be in the long run paying for this? That is my question. It is the taxpayers' money that you're spending on this, and maybe we'd rather have it better spent.
It's not Ridgecrest taxpayer money. It's government taxpayer money, not Ridgecrest.
It's still taxpayer money.
Right.
I do care about how my money's spent by the federal government, by the city government. In general, I care about how my money is spent.
Well, this money is going to get spent for this purpose, whether we spend it or some other city spends it.
But maybe it could be spent in a better way.
It's going to be spent for low-income housing.
Okay. Is there any other council comment? We have closed public comment. Okay. All right. Any other council comments? Okay, motion.
I move approval.
And Madam Mayor, may I just remind that because there have been protests, it will require a 4/5 vote to approve.
Okay, thank you. All right. So is this then a verbal vote or?
We have a slide.
Okay.
Yes, Mr. Heyman did second it, so please vote. We have 4 ayes, 1 no with Ms. Stevens. Motion carries.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for your comments also. All right, the next item is committee reports. The Finance Committee.
Okay, so Finance Committee did meet. The primary topic is the employee compensation study that's ongoing right now. They've narrowed down the top 12 cities that are comparable to or closest to being comparable to our city in demographics. And so that was pretty much the highlight of the Finance Committee meeting.
Okay. Infrastructure?
Yes, we had a few things. First of all, Mr. Culp made a presentation on adaptive signals. Our traffic signals are being run by a little box inside that is made from 1972. And the cameras are getting older, and we're eventually going to be, well, we already are replacing some of the cameras, but some of the boxes cannot be replaced with the same stuff because it's obsolete. So he made a presentation showing different adaptive signals. They're not cheap, and so we gave him direction to go back and get more information and present it to us, and possibly we would start replacing the cameras with better cameras, and then eventually possibly going to the adaptive signals. But he's supposed to get more information and find out other companies, certain signals would cost as much as $35,000 to replace all 4 cameras and the box to make those run. Eventually they could talk to each other, but right now there wouldn't be anybody else to talk to with only one. We also talked about ADA transition and ADA improvements on Ridgecrest Boulevard. It's been delayed because our one bid didn't meet our budget, so that's being worked on right now. Isn't that right, Bard? And then that's about it.
Okay. Economic Development Committee.
We did not meet.
Lindsay, have we filled that other committee person with you?
I thought that you guys put.
That's what
Kyle
I thought.
on.
Kyle was on it. So we need to make
Update
sure
the agenda.
if we can change the agenda.
And I think you need to put him on the Youth Advisory Committee as well.
Yes, ma'am.
Right, correct.
I think we did, didn't we?
Well,
Yeah,
we
I
did, but
didn't
it's
change
not
it
on the
agenda.
paper.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Parks and Rec,
Did not meet.
Youth Advisory.
They're meeting at the high school now, so they're working. You guys are looking at adopting a new kind of program for that. So
All right. RACVB. We didn't attend that meeting, and the next meeting is going to be announced because of some changes that may be coming up. I understand. Don't know that for sure.
I thought that the analyst was.
Did we miss it?
Yeah. So the analyst, it's not vacant. Melissa.
I know Melissa said she was going to be attending.
Right. So, but on here it says vacant.
Yeah.
So Melissa goes to that, and
Yeah.
she sent an email to Jed, but he can't pull it up right now. So.
Okay.
She did attend.
Okay. All right.
She sent a summary. I think it was about the message board. Yes. They're working. There's the message board kind of down just north of Bowman, and they're working on getting that working again. And I don't remember.
And the building that they're
the welcome
center
too. They're working on that. So.
Okay. All right. Other committees, boards, or commissions? Anybody? City Manager's report?
So I have a few things I need to report out on.
Oh,
Madam
I'm
Mayor, if
sorry.
you don't
Go
mind.
ahead.
No, that's okay. I think it's New Mayors and Council Members Academy I attended last month. It was a brilliant 3-day course in Sacramento. We went over the Brown Act at length, Public Records Act, Request, Local Reform Act, when to recruit yourself, when not to, countless courses with lawyers, experienced mayors, council members, and city managers. So thank you for the opportunity to do that. So council and staff both made sure I got to that. The second thing was we had the Girl Scout visit to the city on the 27th of January, and it was a brilliant visit. A Girl Scout troop 8019 came to visit. They had a lot of intelligent questions. Madam Mayor showed them around, let them see, at least from the outside, what teen court was like. That was a little terrifying, I think, for a few of them. It was, but once they got over that, you took them back into the conference room, and we went over a mock, like what it would be to sit in front of the council and deal with an issue. And in what would take us several months, you walked through them in like 10 minutes. And it seemed like they all had a better grasp of what's going on. And it was motivating to be a part of. Thank you for having me be a part of it. I hope that more younger groups come out and do that sort of thing. Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, any group, it doesn't matter. They should all come and be a part of the city.
Well, they elected a council, they elected a mayor, they elected staff, they appointed it. And I asked them to debate. Should we say no more fossil fuel vehicles in the city? Should we say there can only be electric? And they talked about what the impacts were, what they needed to know to figure out what it was, and to ask staff for more information. And they were very smart, asked great questions, and they didn't come up with any resolution because we don't have enough information to make that decision yet. But they recognized that, and that was really important. So they had a good time. I got a card afterwards, and I will share it with you, and pictures from them having their discussion, and I said one of them decided that she wanted to be the attorney because that's what she wanted to be when she grew up, and her answers were, "I'm going to look into that." So, thank you. She learned a lot. So. But go ahead.
Yeah, no, that about sums it up. And they followed up with a question and answer where they grilled Peggy and I. And I think my favorite question was, "Have you made any mistakes yet?"
You're still too new.
That's why I said just give it a few months. I'm sure I will.
That's not true. You fact that you recognize that you can.
Absolutely. So all in all, it was a wonderful experience. And I hope more people get out to do that sort of thing. The next thing is, Madam Mayor, should we report out that we went to the State of County dinner? So we did. Leticia Perez, our current county supervisor for the 5th District, gave the address. It was an intelligent, well-delivered address about the economy, the state of Kern County, how much the oil industry provides, and Rio Tinto gave a nice presentation on how they give back to Kern County. And that's all I have, Madam Mayor.
Okay, City Manager's report.
I found the RACVB email. She said that their meeting is February 19th at 9 a.m. And since I'm up here for Mr. Strand today, and I've been waiting my whole life for this, the Chiefs are Super Bowl champs. Go Chiefs Kingdom. Thank you.
Yes, I support that.
Okay, that was an unusual report, but thank you, sir. Okay, future agenda items.
I've been waiting.
Anybody?
Yes, I do. I would like to have us vote, put on, Lloyd, if you could look at the language to change the ordinance for the skate park. It's been requested numerous times, and Councilman Blades went out to the park and talked with a number of the youth down there, and it seems that we have made a mountain out of a molehill here, and there's not a lot for our youth to do in this community. You know, they've been setting trash cans on fire at the park. So we should allow them to be able to utilize the skate park for bicycles and skates and scooters. They all seem fine with it, and they can handle it amongst themselves. From the interviews he did, there's signage already up there that recommends for younger children maybe to come at alternate hours. And I believe Mr. Strand emailed insurance. The insurance, we just have to get a different policy, but it's the same cost. So I'd like to have our language in the ordinance, a draft presented so that we could vote on that.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you, Lindsay. I appreciate that.
Any other future agenda items? Okay. Mayor and City Council comments. Anybody?
No, ma'am.
I have one. I want to say thank you, Amelia, for coming to this first time, for your comments and for your email. Also received another email similar to yours. There are 2 members of this council who are younger and primarily, their families primarily employed with the base, and both of which voted against the casino. So the community, as I mentioned, is unfortunately moving in the wrong direction, I feel, of attracting and retaining young professionals for the base. And without the base, our community would be in a very bad situation. So I think it is important for us to have that focus, and that we're trying to do what we can to support that. I know, as you mentioned in your email, raising a family near a casino isn't something that I really desire to do either. And so it's sad for Ridgecrest.
Any other council comments?
What?
Okay, then.
I've got one, but I'm not going to make it.
Okay, well then we'll adjourn. Thank you all for coming.